All right, so we got Ethan Klein. This man has hit a new low. He's embarrassed himself once again, and he's gotten carried away with trying to attack his enemies. And after this one, I don't know how anybody could possibly take him seriously, but also, I don't think many people took him seriously before this. So I guess nothing's really changed. But this really was a massive failure for him. I mean, he was trying to attack the fresh and fit guys who nobody really likes and nobody wants to have to defend. Like, most people goof on them. Most people like don't care if anyone makes fun of them. Like, I think I made a video on making fun of them, but Ethan screwed up so badly that most people were defending Fresh and Fit and calling Ethan out. And these are people that probably hate Fresh and Fit more than Ethan. And like in the comment section of this video, Ethan's fans are commenting, and every comment is negative and calling him out. Here, I'll get into some of them. Well, actually, first, let me just describe the situation here in case people don't know what I'm talking about. Some girl called in to the H3 podcast, and she told a story about how she was hanging out with the guys from Fresh and Fit after she went on their podcast, and it was her and her friend, and they were like out in Miami. And I guess this girl had a really bad experience with one of them, and she ended up at his apartment at like 5 in the morning, or the podcast studio, or wherever it was, and he like split her up from her friend, and she really didn't want to be alone with him. And then he made a move on her, and she was really uncomfortable, and she thought he crossed the line and he shouldn't have done that. And there are definitely more details that I'll get into later in this video when I start playing clips from the H3 podcast where she's telling her story. But first, I just want to take a look at some of the comments on this podcast, because this shows how bad Ethan looks here. Like, I'm pretty sure every comment that I saw, I mean, I didn't go that deep into them, but every comment I saw was defending Fresh and Fit and calling Ethan out. And this is on Ethan's channel. Like, this is the video where the girl's talking about her experience or whatever. So let's see, this comment says, false accusations are something I would not want even on my worst enemies, but Ethan Klein proved today, if you hate someone enough, you are literally willing to do anything to destroy them. Jesus. And then another one says, pretty impressive to make up a story about someone everyone hates and still have everyone not believe you. Yeah, that's how bad this is. And this is what most of these comments were saying. And these are coming from people that are probably big H3 fans. And they have to defend Fresh and Fit and call Ethan out for doing this. And some of these people even believe the girl's story for the most part, and they still are calling Ethan out. And this girl's story, it really doesn't even make much sense. But let's just get into it here and see what this girl has to say about her experience with one of the Fresh and Fit guys. I don't even know which one. I don't know who's who.
And me and my friend had gone out to the club that was around her area. And when we went in there, we were doing our own thing, and Walter had showed up. And he came up to us, like we went to his table, he was talking to us, and he comes straight up to me and he says, well, Myron wants you. And I said, a child? Like, because I know I'm not a minor.
I mean, you're 19, and
I'm freshly out of being a minor.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, you practically just finished high school at that point, right?
Yeah, I probably just finished my first year of college, but.
All right, so this girl's 19, so of course, you know, Ethan has to set this up like, oh man, these guys are so creepy. There's some young girl that they're like preying on, and like he has to set it up like these guys are the creepiest people alive, which, I mean, I'm sure they are pretty creepy, and it is a little weird to hit on a girl this young, but Ethan always turns these age differences into something like way more serious than it is. I mean, this isn't illegal or anything. And he makes it seem like she is just this girl who came to think for herself. Like, she just got out of high school. She doesn't know what she's doing. And then these guys who are like in their 30s, they're just creeping around, preying on these children, as this girl described herself. Like, you're 19, you're in college, you can't be calling yourself a child. And that just shows that she is trying to make this seem like, oh man, I couldn't even do anything for myself. Like, I'm a child out there, even though I think she's like in Miami on vacation with a friend, and she's out drinking at bars. Like, she's got a fake ID. Like, which is it? Do you want to be younger or older? Like, do you want to be a child, or do you want to be an adult who can drink alcohol and all that stuff? And this is just pathetic, because you know exactly what Ethan's trying to do here. You know exactly the angle he's taking. Like, he's not coming at this with like an objective perspective. All he wants to do here is make it seem like this guy did something wrong. That's all he cares about doing. Because Like, what do you think he's doing this for the right reasons to try to make women like more comfortable to speak up about these situations or to help this girl in any way? I don't think anybody believes that's what he's trying to do, because this is only going to hurt the cause that he's trying to support here.
And so,
it
was it weird for you for this 35-year-old man to be so persistently pursuing you?
Yeah, it was very. What I describe it as, like, when I like on the podcast, I was sick to my stomach just being on the podcast itself. But like just being in his presence, like later in the night, I felt very sick because it was just weird. Like just like
So
knowing.
I find it odd too that his buddy, these guys they're like kindergartens. Like he's sending his buddy to be like, hey, you want to go on a double date? Or, yo, my buddy really likes you.
All right, so this is why her story, I feel like, makes no sense. And of course, Ethan doesn't question this at all. He just like changes the subject or starts like talking about some other shit. Like, she keeps saying, I was sick to my stomach being on the podcast. Like, I hated these two. Like, she made it sound like she was not interested in them at all. Like, she thought they're creepy. But then she's still like going to the bar with them or meeting them out, and she's still continuing to text them. And eventually she goes back to his apartment at like 5 in the morning. Like, if you really hate these two and you think they're so terrible and creepy and they could be up to some weird shit, why do you want to hang out with them so badly? It makes no sense. And also, I don't think I mentioned this yet, I'm pretty sure Fresh and Fit, those guys did like a 6-hour podcast where they rebutted this, and they showed way more receipts, and they showed that she was friendly with them and she wanted to hang out with them. So her credibility is pretty much gone, and everyone knows what she's trying to do here, because it sounds like she went out with them, she went back to one of their places, and then I think the guy like made fun of her or something, and that really upset her, which like he's an asshole for doing. But what this girl's accusing him of, or what Ethan is like acting like this girl's accusing him of, is something a lot worse.
Over and like signaled her like, no, like we're not doing that. So eventually, like we pull up in front of the podcast apartment, and Myron's coming out of the building, and I get out of the car, and Walter leaves with my friend and took her to like another club. So I'm with Myron by myself. So we get into his car, and he drives us to like this like.
So this was another big part of the story. She keeps saying that she didn't want to be alone with him, like she wanted to stay with her friend the whole time. And then of course her friend and the other guy, Fit or Fresh, whatever one it is, like they just take off, and now she's all by herself. And of course Ethan is just like, oh no, like that's terrible that they split you two up. I know you wanted to be with your friend, now you're all uncomfortable and you're scared. Like that's what he just wants her to say here. Even though, all right, if you two split up, like if you're really that uncomfortable, why wouldn't you just say to your friend, hey, I don't want to split up, like, or text her and be like, let's get back together. Like, if you really don't want to split up, you don't need to. Like, didn't your friend and you talk about this beforehand? Like, hey, well, let's just stick together tonight. And then if her friend leaves, then she's not a very good friend either. Like, this story just does not add up at all. And the fact that Ethan doesn't question anything, it just shows that he thinks of a young girl who's like 19. He thinks they are idiots. They don't know what the hell's going on. They can't do anything for themselves. I mean, that's what it sounds like here. And also, obviously, just trying to use this to weaponize it against his enemies. Like, and that's still really bad, because he's using this like social issue that people find very important, and they want to make sure that it's going in the right direction, and he's just using it to attack somebody, and it's taking it in the wrong direction. So it's just not a good look for him. And I knew this was coming, because even with the David Dobrik stuff a few years ago, he would get a little too carried away with that as well. And he is just a massive hypocrite, because if he really cared about these issues as much as he claims he does, and he has like people on his podcast talking about it and telling their stories, and he's basically trying to do detective work, trying to figure out if somebody did something wrong, he will only do this if it's somebody he doesn't like. If there's somebody that he likes and they're creepy, then he doesn't give a shit. Are you kidding me? Like, he's not going to call him out. But if it's somebody he doesn't like, or even somebody that he's just neutral towards for the most part, he will call them out. Or he will start to hate them. He will start to want to call them out even more and more. And he just gets so carried away with it. And also, if he cares about these issues so much, I'm 99% sure, like maybe somebody could prove me wrong. Like maybe somebody could find a clip of him talking about this. But I'm 99% sure he never addressed Moses's allegations. His brother-in-law, some girl came out and said that she was stealthed by him, and she's an H3 fan, and Moses used his status like as Hila's brother to get with this girl, and apparently he stealthed her, which I think is considered assault in some states. So I guess Ethan cares about these issues so much. If something allegedly happens to one of his fans by his brother-in-law, he doesn't even address it. I mean, maybe he did. Again, prove me wrong. I would love to see the evidence, and I will gladly admit that I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he has never addressed it.
Place this spot. I don't know why it was open at 5 a.m., but we sat down, we ate food. And mind you, from the minute I saw him when I got out the car to the minute that I left with him, I was debating him the whole time. And not even debating, just telling him how much I hate his views and like him himself. And we're driving back, and mind you, I had said like, oh, we're gonna go meet my Walter and my friend now, right? And he said, yeah. I'm talking to him, I'm facing him in the driver's seat, I'm still going, I'm passionate and heated, telling him my views and stuff, and we end up back at the podcast studio. So I'm like, like I'm ready to go home, and we get back up into the podcast studio and we go inside, and he's like, oh, I'm just picking up something. I just had to grab something from the studio. And again, it's like 4 or 5 a.m. in Miami, and like no one's in the studio, but the lights are all on. They have everything.
It's so funny because this girl in the beginning is talking about how creeped out she is by them. She thinks they're weird. She hates them. She's annoyed by them. And now it's 5 a.m. and she's at the podcast studio with one of them. And I think like it's one of their apartments or something, or their apartments in the same building. So if you think these guys are that bad, what are you doing with them at 5 a.m? Like, come on. And this just proves that Ethan's crew is all yes men. The fact that nobody thought, you know, this story, it just seems like something's off here. Like, nobody thought that. It just shows that these people are either scared to speak up, or they just agree with everything Ethan says or something. I don't know. Like, somebody should have been able to be like, listen, dude, this probably isn't it.
So I'm walking like towards the bedroom, into the balcony, like towards the balcony, and he's standing in the door frame, and he just grabs my face and kisses me.
Wow. There you go. He was reading the room, good at reading the signals.
Yeah. And
awesome.
Kisses me. I'm like, no thanks. Like, I'm like, no thanks. Mind you, this man is like 6'7".
Did he lead with tongue or no?
I don't even like thinking about it. I just
I'm sorry. I should.
Me. No,
right.
It's okay.
Right. Let's not relive that moment.
But he had kissed me, and then
this is awesome. Ethan asks if he led with his tongue. Like, is this a really traumatizing situation like you're making it out to be, or is this something that you could joke about? And obviously I know he took it back right away, but still, I feel like, what is this podcast anymore? Is this a comedy podcast? Because that's what people claim it is. This doesn't sound like one to me. So I think the fact that he kissed her without her permission, that's the big crime here. Well, I think there's another part too, but this is like what Ethan thinks is terrible, even though he's joking about it. I don't know what's going on here. I think this is just an awkward interaction. I think I read somebody comparing it to the Aziz situation when he got Me Too'd, but I think people just figured out that, like, I don't know, it's just like two people together and they didn't really know where each other's boundaries were or something. That's what it sounds like is probably going on here. And who even knows if he kissed her? Like, I don't even know if that's true, because this girl lost a lot of credibility. I don't think many people are taking this story seriously anymore. Like, it just seems like this should even have been told. Like, there's no point to this. Like, nothing happened. Ethan was hoping for something, but in the end, it's just nothing. But of course, he act like this is some groundbreaking story.
Bathroom.
Are you a little scared at this moment?
I was very uncomfortable. I was very I didn't know, again, like a lot of people, I didn't want to speak out about this either. Cause again, like there's alcohol involved, like a lot of women try to speak out about stuff like this. And you usually get the whole, like, you asked for it if you didn't do this or that, the third. But like when I was in that moment, like it was like a fight or flight or like freeze. So I basically froze. Like I didn't know what to do, but I was just like keeping in touch with my friend.
So of course Ethan asks if she was scared. Like, that's all he wants her to say. Be like, can you just say that you were scared? You thought this guy was gonna attack you. He did attack you. He like chained you to a radiator and was threatening you and like wouldn't release you. And also with the alcohol thing she's talking about, that might have been the worst thing that was like exposed by this, because the Fresh and Fit guys apparently were like really pressuring this girl to drink when she was on the podcast, like to have like a few White Claws or something, which isn't a good look considering she's 19. And then also obviously she's drinking the night of this whole interaction, but she was using a fake ID at a bar, and she definitely wasn't anywhere near being blacked out or anything like that. Like, and she doesn't even say that at all. Like, she says, I don't think she ever brings up that she's too drunk for anything. Like, right here, maybe she kind of is, but it sounds like she's just trying to think of generic stuff to bring up. Like, oh, people, they just say, why wouldn't you do this? Why wouldn't you do that? You don't understand. I was in the fight or flight mode. Or, no, not the fight or flight mode, because that means I probably would have left. I mean, I was in the fight or, like, frozen mode. Is that what she said? And, of course, in that clip I played earlier, she talks about his height, and because she wants to make it seem like, oh, man, I'm threatened by him. Like, which is an actual scenario that happens in these situations, obviously, but that just it's not sound like she was pressured into staying there. It sounds like she could have just left. And also, if she already knew he was a big dude, she was scared of him or whatever, and she knew he's creepy and all this stuff, but you're with him at his apartment basically at 5 a.m. Like, come on. If that's what's going on, you probably need like a caretaker looking after you or something. I mean, this is insane.
Hey, like, what are you guys doing? Like, can we just go home? But
Yeah, I mean,
he
at
was
this
like trying to keep me there.
at this moment, it does sound a little scary that you're in this studio with this massive dude. He's just come on to you. He tried to kiss you. You rejected him, and now he's kind of ordering you around to mouthwash. Because at that point, it's like, well, why am I mouthwashing? Are you going to try to make out with me more?
Yeah, and I didn't really see the point in doing the mouthwash of like I don't know.
Oh yeah, and also apparently the fresh and fit guy told her that she needed mouthwash because her breath smelled of alcohol or something like that. So I think that's what upset her as well. But of course Ethan's like, oh my god, you're in this guy's apartment, you're scared. He's a big dude, you don't know what he's capable of. I think Ethan should just tell all these young girls to not even go out at all.
Gap between us. And I'm on my phone, he's on his phone. And I remember, again, I was speaking about my views. Once again, he just jumps on top of me and starts making out with me.
Wow.
Like trying to kiss me and stuff. And so I'm like, I have my hands like on him where it's like, I don't want him like laying on me like intimately. So I'm just holding my hands up and I'm like, no. This was about like max a minute long. And I was wearing like this shirt and it's like a very loose shirt, whatever. And he basically lifts up the shirt and made a comment. And then I was like, I'm done. I'm over this. Like, and
Wait,
I
he
said
lifted
to him
up your shirt and kind of looked at underneath it and commented?
Yeah, my chest. Because I have
Dude.
piercings.
I'm sorry, you say what?
No, I said I have piercings, so he made a comment on it.
Oh, okay.
And it was very creepy. It was very weird.
I don't want to This is very bad. This is a very disturbing story, actually.
Yeah, it's interesting, but at that point,
I think he may have assaulted you. I mean, at this point, I
mean, I don't want to say that, but like again, like it was my experience.
He also implicationed you a little bit too. The way they split you guys up, and I think you got implicationed. I think you got Dennis systemed.
See, this is the problem with getting into subjects like this and trying to like be the fucking police or something and act like a detective and try to figure out if this girl's telling the truth. Because, I mean, obviously Ethan is not very good at doing this, and who wants to be the person to do this? And of course Ethan only wants to be the person to do this if it's somebody he hates, because then he'll just believe everything the girl says. He doesn't question it at all, even though there's so many things that could be questioned. And he's just like, this does not sound good. Man, this sounds like it's assault, even though she doesn't even say it's assault. So, I mean, if she's not even saying that, then, like, it seems like Ethan just wants her to say, like, hey, I was, like, R-worded by this guy. Or, like, he just hopes to God she says that. He's looking for any reason to make these people out to be the worst people alive.
I order my own Uber. And I'm walking out and I'm like, oh, my Uber's coming. Like, can you walk me downstairs? Because I didn't know how to work this building. So he walks me to the elevator, pushes the button and walks away. Like with no comment. He just pushes the button and walks back into the studio.
So she's so scared of this guy. She doesn't want to be around him. She just wants to get out of there. She might have just been assaulted. But then she asks him if he could walk her to her Uber because she doesn't know how to work the building, whatever that means. Like, if you were really scared of this guy and you're, like, traumatized by what just happened, wouldn't you just want to be as far away from this guy as possible? I don't think you'd be asking him to be around you more, pretty much. It sounded like he wanted to get away from you. No, I'm just kidding. He should have walked her to her car, or her Uber. He should have drove her home. I mean, these guys are assholes, and that's why it's crazy. Like, Ethan had to botch this so badly for people to be defending these guys.
You started crying. I
Yeah.
don't blame you. That whole thing is really traumatic. And I'll tell you what, I actually didn't know how crazy this story gets at the end. I'm sorry you went through that.
Yeah, it's all right. I just want to bring it more awareness.
I mean, wow,
to this type of stuff.
The thing that's really crazy is, like, if you're hanging out with somebody, you know, you don't always have to give someone a ride home. But what's messed up is they intentionally split you guys up. And then he took you all the way out to the studio and then basically stranded you there. He's like, well, if you want to leave, you got to fucking pay for your own ride. I mean, what the fuck, dude?
So I don't even think she ever said that they intentionally split them up. Of course, that's how Ethan wants to make it sound. And then also, it seems like he brought her to the apartment. Now she's stranded out there, even though I'm pretty sure the apartment's still like in downtown Miami or very close by. Like, she had so many options to leave. And of course, Ethan loves the fact that she was crying and it was traumatic. I mean, this is kind of disturbing, but it sounds like Ethan wishes somebody was assaulted by these guys.
Surprised, but I'm not surprised by your story, as horrific as it is. But
Yeah,
wow,
no,
what a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, this horrific story where they all believe that she was probably assaulted, and now they're all laughing. They're all like, well, I'm not surprised. Of course you're not surprised. This is exactly what you wanted. Like, in going into this, you're like, if I can get this girl to say anything close to being like essayed, like assaulted, whatever, then that's gonna be awesome. Like, that's what I'm looking for. Like, that's so obvious what's going on here.
I think it's really brave, and it's a reminder that, you know, a simple going out as a woman can become really scary, and it's not something that men generally think about. It's not, I mean, maybe some do, but it's easy to forget just how weird it can be out there as a woman, as a young woman. And, well, I guess stay safe. What's your advice? I mean, how do you avoid these kinds of situations? I mean, you never know. It could be, you never know, you know, it's hard.
So this part is the best because, of course, Ethan's trying to give this whole lesson now. Like, oh, you don't realize what it's like out there and everything. Dude, you're only hurting the cause. And then also, did you even listen to her fucking story? Like, these are the guys from the Fresh and Fit podcast. Everyone knows what they're like. This girl didn't like them going into it. And then Ethan's making it sound like this all happened out of nowhere and she couldn't have seen this coming. And he's like, you don't even realize it. Like, with these girls, all of a sudden things can just be weird and, like, you got to watch out for it. Like, dude, all the signs were there. She admitted they were creepy, they're weird. She didn't like them at all. She was sick to her stomach being on the podcast. But then, all of a sudden, she's at their apartment at 5 a.m. Like, oh, where did that come from? Like, dude, what are you talking about? And this part is so great because, of course, Ethan, he's given this whole speech. He never asks her, like, oh, were there any moments where you could have left? Like, instead of ever saying that, he gives this whole speech like, oh, man, you never know what to expect. These poor girls out at bars, they could end up at the Fresh and Fit guy's apartment. So this girl has to bring up, like, listen, I know people are saying that I shouldn't have been there because I already realized that they're creepy and weird and everything.
Yeah, no, I feel like a lot of people that I spoke to about the story, they told me, they're like, well, if you knew how he was like on the podcast, then like, why would you go on it? Or like, why would you hang out with him one-on-one? The thing is, like, it's so like, things are just so unexpected, and like the best thing you can do. I'm just glad that I made it out safe. So like,
yeah,
I'm a very big believer in God. So like, I think praying, again, like, not everyone's like religious, but like that's.
So she brings up the question that I've been asking pretty much this whole video, and then she goes to answer it, and she's just like, well, things are unexpected. I'm lucky I made it out. Like, you didn't really answer the question at all. So I have just one more clip here where I think this is after she left the call, and Ethan and his crew are just talking about it now. And of course, they're like, what did we just hear? Oh, that was definitely assault. Oh, yeah, that was for sure. Man, this is going to be a big story. We're going to be hearing more about this. There's probably going to be more people to come forward. And it's just like, how out of touch are you people? Like, do you have any objective opinion at all? Or is it just like, these guys are bad, so that means that they're doing illegal stuff and that they assaulted this girl?
I don't. It sounded to me like he assaulted her.
Yeah. Unquestionably.
Basically, that's what it sounded like to me.
This is the first time we've heard this story about him, but I'm gonna bet right now it's not gonna be the last too. You know?
Yeah.
I'm sure there will be.
Sure, there's a good chance if that's kind of, and the way that, and these guys, man, I mean, this is a 19-year-old girl. What are you guys doing, taking them out and separating them and getting them drunk, and you're not drinking? I mean, guys, what the fuck are you doing? My God.
What the fuck are you doing? Like, now you just took like 20 steps back when it comes to attacking these people and proving that they're like assholes and everything. Because now if some girl ever comes forward, people are probably gonna be questioning it because you brought this girl on and she told this bullshit story. Or like, even if it is true, it's still like nothing really happened. And you believed it all, and now you're like, oh my God, yeah, they're in trouble now. Even though you're in trouble. Like, you just lost all your credibility. There's no way people are gonna take you seriously talking about these stories now. Like, who's going to listen to him talk about some assault story against somebody that he doesn't like? It's just, it sounds like he's just going to talk about it because he hates them. All right, so that's about it for this video. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the like button, leave me a comment, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you at the next video.